We are here with Megabyte Ronnie. Hello, how are you?
I'm doing good. How about you, bud?
I'm fine, thank you. Well, first of all, I'm here that today is your day because today it's the Veterans Day in the United States.
Correct. Yeah, that's right. We have this day, November 11th, where we say thank you to anybody who served or anybody who's serving. So, very special day for me and my fellow vets.
Well, that's great. Also, well, I'm so sorry because I read in your Twitter that you recently lost your job. I think that is your regular job.
Right. My regular job, I used to do IT on computers,
Hmm.
and I was working for a company. Unfortunately, due to COVID, they got to restrict the budget and they got to make cuts. And they told me, my job just didn't exist anymore.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Well, at least we're gonna have a good time with the interview. First of all, I wanna hear your first memories about the pro wrestling, your inspiration and your favorite wrestlers.
Yeah, I think my very first memory is either when I'm at 3 or 4 years old, and I don't remember the pay per view. I want to say SummerSlam in like 1992 or '93. Basically, the earliest memory I have is like Macho Man and Hulk Hogan
Hmm.
coming down to the ring on like a platform, like people carrying them down to the ring. And I think that's what really grabbed my attention was these larger than life men with these larger than life characters.
Hmm.
And being such a young age, I was just instantly hooked.
Oh, that's good. Also, as you say, you are an army veteran. I have read that you served in Afghanistan. Can you tell us more about your time in Afghanistan?
Correct. I did 9 months in Afghanistan between August of 2013 and May of 2014. I did I did 2 years in South Korea as well. So that's two deployments while I was in the army. Uh, Not a whole lot to say. We went down there with like 72 people, and we came back with everybody that we went with. So we didn't have any casualties, thankfully. So
Hmm.
it was a tough deployment. It wasn't fun, but you learn a lot about yourself down there. And
Hmm.
thankfully, I had a lot of good comrades there with me to help me get through it.
Yes. One of my cousin also served in Afghanistan several years ago and told me that the heat is nuclear.
Yeah, it's unreal. It's unreal, man. It's so hot over there. And not only that, we were there in the winter, and it was the biggest blizzard I ever saw. Like it pounded us with snow. So during the summer, it's hot as can be, and during the winter, it's cold as can be. It's weird.
Oh, it's a real tough experience.
Yes,
Yes, and after you came from Afghanistan, you start your career as a pro wrestler. Why?
I didn't initially get into it. So I came back from Afghanistan
Hmm.
when I was 24, and then I didn't get into wrestling until I was 29. So when I got back from Afghanistan, I knew I wanted to be a wrestler. I actually got into pro competitive eating at that time. So I I got out of the army and I went through a real rough patch in my life. And kind of as a last resort thing, I started training to be a wrestler at 29.
And also, I want to ask you because also I have seen that you are a competitive eater. Why did you decide to start a career as a competitive eater? I say because in Spain there is no eating competition.
Yeah, well, basically what happened was is that while I was in Afghanistan, my cooks kept getting upset with me because I kept eating all the food. So they asked me if I had seen the hot dog eating contest on ESPN. So every 4th of July, there's a Nathan's hot dog eating contest on ESPN. It's the biggest event of competitive eating. It's like the Super Bowl, the
Hmm.
World Cup of competitive eating. So I had seen it, it's kind of popular. And I said, yeah. They were like, well, you should try to do that. So I learned how to do that. So basically, what happens is that they have 12 qualifiers around the United States. So the top man and top woman from each qualifier goes on to the big contest on the 4th of July.
Hmm.
It just so happened to be that when I got back from Afghanistan, there was a qualifier 2 weeks later, and it just lined up perfectly, right? So I went to that qualifier, and I finished second, but I got signed to a major league eating contract, and I've been doing it since then. So I've been doing competitive eating for like 6 years now.
Oh, that's great. Also, you have a few world records, no?
Yeah, I don't know if I have a few world records. I think I have the world record for first and second fastest box of cereal ate. I'm sure I have a few unofficial records out there. I ate like 50 zebra cakes in like 3 minutes.
Wow.
So I don't have anything like official in Guinness, but I probably have a few world records.
Oh, that's very good. Well, also, as I have seen in your Instagram, you don't like Trump. As you said, Trump doesn't support veterans, and right now where the election are over and Joe Biden has won, what can you tell me about the election? Because I have heard that United States is too divided.
Yeah, it's a very divided time right now, and I'm not a big fan of Trump. I'm not a big fan of the way he tries to divide us. I'm not a big fan about how he likes to make policies for red states and blue states. I'm not. He's definitely driving the stake into the heart that's separating this great country. So I'm not a big fan of Trump. I've never really been a fan. I really started to hate him when the news came out that he called veterans, suckers and losers. The news came out that he was standing on a veteran's grave, and he asked what was in it for them, because he's a son of a millionaire. He doesn't understand what sacrifice is. He doesn't understand what hard work is. He's not a man of the people. He's a liar. He's a cheater. He's a thief. He's everything that's wrong with this country. I don't believe in I don't believe in racism. I don't believe in fascism. I don't believe in any of that stuff. So he's pretty much the complete opposite of what I want this country to go. I want to move forward. This country should be for everybody, regardless of your religious preference, regardless of the color of your skin, regardless of your sexual preference. This country's for everybody. I don't think we should make policies that don't include everybody.
Yes, that's right. What do you think about Donald Trump being in the WWE Hall of Fame?
I think it's bullshit.
Also, there is another veteran, Jason Ricker, gunner in TNA, that he supported Trump during the Black Lives Matter movement, and he was, he has a lot of backlash from other wrestlers. What do you think about this? Do you think that even in pro wrestling, you have problem if you show your political point of view?
I think, yes. I think maybe in the past we were taught not to talk about politics, but I think now, your political beliefs are kind of where your character stands, right? And I just don't understand how any good, decent human being can support Donald Trump. I don't know Ricker at all. I don't follow him on any social media. I've never read anything he posts. I don't know anything about him, but I will say that, until Black Lives Matter, not all lives can matter. It's absolutely true that Black Lives Matter, and we've got to do a better job of making sure this country is a safer and better place for Black people. So I don't understand how you can be anti-Black Lives Matter. It's just crazy to me.
Yes, that's very great. Also, another veteran. As I think in the United States, it's a crime to say that you are a veteran if you weren't in the war, right?
Yeah, it's called stolen valor. Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily a crime, but it's definitely looked down upon.
Okay, I said so because several months ago, Sergeant Slaughter, a WWE legend, appeared in a suit interview saying that he went to Vietnam. People say, no, you never served in Vietnam or nothing. What do you think? Do you think that about this issue? It's Sergeant Slaughter not being in Vietnam?
I honestly didn't know anything about that, so that's news to me. But if he didn't serve in Vietnam and he's saying that he's Vietnam, he's a piece of shit. So
yes, but he was doing in character or keeping Kaifabi alive.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look more into that personally, but I'm not a big fan of saying you went to a war and you didn't go to a war. That's kind of BS to me.
Okay. Well, also, a few years ago, WWE announced the return of the tribute to the troops, the event to pay tribute to the troops. What do you think about this kind of patriotic events?
I think it's very good for them to go. I don't think recently they stopped going overseas. I think they started doing some in like in an army base in Washington. I think they did one in Texas. I think it was really cool when they went overseas to do it for the troops who were deployed. You know, when they were having the events in Afghanistan and Iraq. That could be a real good morale booster right there, right? Because I've been there for 9 months. You don't have anything to look forward to. So for WWE to come out there and put a ring in the middle of the desert and have a show would absolutely boost your spirits. So I think the tribute to the troops shows are always cool. Even when they do them here in the United States, I don't have anything bad to say about that. You know, I'm not gonna bash WWE because they do one thing I disagree with and one thing I agree with. I'll give them their props where it's due. That's absolutely a very cool event, and they do some really cool stuff for veterans. So, tribute to the troops is awesome that they do that.
Well, that's pretty great. Also, I want to talk about your wrestling career now that your full career. Your most common famous match was against Brian Cage at AEW Dark. What can you tell me about your match and your brief stint with Elite?
Well, I got to All Elite Wrestling because I did Hot Ones with Cody Rhodes. I ate chicken wings with Cody. And he told me at the end of the episode that he was going to bring me down to AEW one day. I did not know that I was going to have a match, right? So, of course, when they reached out to me and they told me they were going to bring me down, I brought my wrestling gear with me just in case. But I honestly did not know that I was going to have a match. And I get backstage and they have this big marker board with all the matches, you know, wrote down on it. And I'm looking down the list, looking down the list. The very last match is Brian Cage versus Megabyte Ronnie. And I flipped out, man. I was not expecting that. Nor, you know, if I got a match, I didn't expect to get a match with somebody of Brian Cage's caliber, the FTW champion. All Elite Wrestling is a very class act organization. They're very cool backstage. Everybody's big brothers. They got a lot of camaraderie there. I have nothing but great things to say about All Elite Wrestling. Absolutely enjoyed my time. Very thankful for Brian Cage to have that match with me. I think it was a good match. I think I was relatively unknown before that match. I had like 700 followers on Twitter, and now I have almost 4,000. And it's mostly due to that match, right? Nobody really knew who I was before that match. And that did so much for me. And I got to be on Being the Elite, which was really good for me as well. So All Elite Wrestling definitely springboarded my career in 2 days.
Yes, that's great. Also, I think that Elite Wrestling had very good COVID protocols.
Say that again, I couldn't hear you.
The COVID protocols, the healthy protocols to stop the virus, right?
Oh, yeah. So what does All Elite Wrestling do for that?
Yes.
Yeah, so what they do is they give you a blood test when you get there. The blood test gives you results within 15 minutes. You don't have to wait like 3 or 4 days like the test where they stick the Q-tip up your nose. So as soon as you get there, they blood test you and they give you a ribbon. And you're not allowed in, or not a ribbon, but a wristband. And you're not allowed into the arena without that wristband. And they take your temperature every single time that you go in and out of the building. So I was blown away by how COVID safe they were down there.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was great. It was it blew my expectations out of the water. I was super happy with how serious they were taking it.
Yes, that's great. Also, as you know, several of these matches are also tryouts, and some of the wrestlers earn a contract, like for example Will Hobbs or Abaddon. There is any chance to see you again in AEW?
I hope so, right? I've had absolutely Zero contact with All Elite Wrestling since my match. I don't necessarily know if that's a bad thing. They're extremely busy down there. They have independent wrestlers coming in and out all the time. So hopefully, I would really love to get another shot at All Elite Wrestling, but I've had no conversation with them since that day. So we'll see.
Yes. Also, as you say, you are looking for a home promotion, like for example, Major League Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor. Do you have any preference?
No,
No.
I don't have any preference. I am an unemployed American looking for a job. The first person that wants to give me a contract, I'll sign it. I said it before, I'll say it again. All I need is a camera and a microphone, and I could be this generation's DDP. I believe I can absolutely be a star. I have a story. I have a life story behind me that you couldn't even make my story up, right? So my story is so so bold and so impactful that people are going to want to see me. They're going to want to see more of me. I think I could absolutely be a world champion for any promotion. I think I could be a star for any promotion. I just need an opportunity. I just need someone to give me a contract. And whoever is first to give me that opportunity, I'm going to make them a lot of money.
Yes. Also, right now there is a worldwide pandemic, but the independent events are more frequent right now. Just a few weeks ago, you have a dispute with Joey Janela because he said something on Twitter. You respond, you were very angry, but later you say, I'm sorry. Janela say, I'm sorry. Can you tell me what happened and the state of the independent scene right now?
I think what happened was that me and Joey Janela are two very passionate people who were on the opposite side of an argument. I absolutely escalated it. It was absolutely my fault that any of that happened. Joey Janela said something that I disagreed with, but I took it the wrong way. His message wasn't the way I took his message wasn't the way he intended it to be said. So I came out and I said some stupid shit, and then he replied, and he replied angrily, and I don't blame him because if the roles were reversed and he was saying that things, I would have replied the exact same way that he replied. Basically, what happened was that I don't think that the independent wrestlers should just go show up to a wrestling show during the pandemic. I believe if you are going to wrestle for a show, it is in the best interest of the wrestlers involved, the staff involved, and the fans involved. If you get a COVID test prior to going to that show, I don't think any wrestler should just go show up to a show looking for a spot. Now, I understand that pre-COVID, that was the way to do things, right? You needed to go to shows, you needed to shake hands, you needed to help put the ring up, you needed to help put the ring down, you had to pay your dues. And I completely understand that. But during this virus, things have got to change. And I don't think that anybody should just go and show up to shows. And Joey Janela wasn't trying to do that. He was just trying to encourage the guy who went out of the way, who paid for his own plane ticket to get there. And we just clashed. I apologize to Joey Janela. I could have handled that in private. I didn't need to do what I needed to do. I am hot-headed. I have a temper. Sometimes that gets the best of me. And in this situation, it absolutely did. I'm extremely thankful that Joey Janela accepted my apology. I'm extremely thankful that we both put this behind us. And I hope that one day that I get to see Joey Janela in person and tell him I'm sorry in person, instead of over a message. And we can put this behind us. And who knows, maybe one day there'll be a Joey Janela and Megabyte Ronnie match.
Yes, engage in wrestling.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, also, I have seen that you are very active in the social media, Twitter, tweets, Instagram. Do you think that this is important for wrestling today, to be active in social media?
It is absolutely important. You have to get your character out there. not only your character, you have to get your personality out there. This is a world in 2020 when wrestling and real life have kind of merged, right? People like wrestlers based off their real life personality and their character, and they don't like people based off their real life personality and character. So social media is a platform that you're able to get your message out to as many people as you can. There's no other way you can get a message out to so many people than you can on Twitter or Instagram or anything like that. I tell the people that I train with all the time that they've got to get on Twitter, they've got to get on YouTube, they've got to get on Instagram, they've got to get on social media, because in 2020, social media is almost as important as wrestling ability. There's guys that I train with that look like absolute fucking monsters that should be signed and should be tag champions in WWE right now. I'm not going to drop their name because I don't want to give them any bad news, but they are 6'4", 230 pounds, jacked to the fucking brim, and there's absolutely zero reason that they shouldn't be in WWE right now, except they don't do social media because they hate social media. Well, I mean, that's too bad. Social media is part of this job. I think social media is part of your job as a professional wrestler, and I think you have to do it if you want to make it in this business.
Well, what do you think about the recent politics in WWE shutting down Twitch channel for wrestlers like Mia Yim, AJ Styles, and similar?
I think that's wrong. I think we've got to go and find out a way going forward that we can address this independent contract, independent worker contract that WWE gives their wrestlers. I don't think there's any way they should be able to control their Twitch. I think I don't know. I think that sucks, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Also, I read in your Twitter you have the tweet that you are not a comedy wrestler because when you eat a hot dog you have more protein. Also, you have more weight for your hot dog elbow. Can you tell me your approach to wrestling? What do you think about serious wrestling versus comedy wrestling?
I don't ever want to be pegged in a category as comedy wrestler, right? Because when it comes down to it, I'm 6'2" and 230 pounds. I'm a big badass dude. I know how to hurt somebody, and I don't ever want somebody to think just because I do stuff with a hot dog doesn't mean that I can't switch it up and put somebody down, because I absolutely can put somebody down at any given moment. I believe that wrestling is supposed to be entertaining, and I do the hot dog stuff because I think it's entertaining, right? It makes me laugh. I enjoy it. When I think about some of my favorite wrestlers, they were outlandish characters. My favorite wrestler was The Rock, right? And The Rock did comedy stuff in most of his matches all the time, but The Rock could switch it up and lay the stack down just like that. So that's what I try to take my inspiration of. I'm a big fan of The Miz, and The Miz will put some comedy in his matches as well. So I think there's spots in my match where I could do comedy, but I could also be a serious wrestler. There's some people that do only comedy for the entire match, and that's okay. I believe where wrestling is right now, there's different flavors of wrestling, right? I like to think about it like ice cream, right? You may like vanilla more than you like chocolate, and you think strawberry's okay. And we got all these different flavors of wrestling, so you can enjoy all these different flavors. And if you don't like a flavor, you can just find another promotion or another match or something else to watch, right? There's so much wrestling out there, you can find your flavor.
That's good. A good vision. Also, it's weird because I have interviewed many wrestlers, and you are the first one that told me that The Miz is an inspiration for him.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you think about it, The Miz is a lot like me, right? The Miz was outcasted because he came into WWE through reality TV. right? I'm outcasted because I came into wrestling through competitive eating. People think I get handed shit. I don't get handed a damn thing. You know, like people are a little bit distant to me sometimes backstage at wrestling shows because they think I'm just some competitive eater coming here trying to get a rub. I've loved professional wrestling since I was 4 years old. I love professional wrestling more than I love anything else in the world. This is my number one hobby. This is my number one thing. This is all I've ever wanted to do. Just because I did something else before I got here doesn't mean I don't love professional wrestling. The same thing with The Miz. Because he did reality TV before he got there, I'm sure The Miz has loved professional wrestling his entire life. You know, if you watched him on his reality show, all he did was talk about wrestling.
Yes. Also, as you said, you are paying your dues because you are going to independent events. You are before COVID, you shake hands.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've done it all. There's a promotion here in Buffalo, New York. I'm not going to say the name. I showed up 7 months in a row, shaking hands, putting up the ring, tearing down the ring, and they never booked me, right?
Yeah.
Well, turns out that in my 20th match, I wrestled for All Elite Wrestling, so they can kiss my ass now. So, I mean, there's just some things in wrestling that are BS. We got this, buddy system where everybody wants to, book their buddy that goes out drinking with them, and you have to navigate around those pitfalls in wrestling. And I don't go out drinking. I don't party. I'm just here to entertain the fans.
Yes, it's true. Also, as you said, you fell in love with larger than life characters. Right now, there is not that kind of characters about in pro wrestling today. Do you think that having a good character is a lost art?
Yeah, I do. I think we're starting to make this circle in wrestling, right? So if you look back in the 90s and the 95s, you got characters that are like policemen and firemen and yetis and cavemen and demons, and we have all of these sort of characters, and eventually that got played out, and we started getting more and more into like real people and real wrestling. The Chris Benoits and the Kurt Angles and stuff like that became extremely popular, and now we've hit this point in independent wrestling where everybody's done every move possible. They've did every twist. We've done flips and bumps and moves, and we're doing crazy spots, and there's so much of that now. We're starting to get back to the top of the circle where people want to see characters. If you look out on the independents, you look at people like Danhausen, and you look at people like Warhorse. Those guys are extremely popular, and that's because and people like Effie, and that's because their characters are so good. So I think we're starting to come back around in that circle where you're going to need to have a strong character for people to get invested in you.
Yes, that's right. And can you tell me which parts of your personality included into the Megabyte character?
I think Megabyte Ronnie is just me turned up to 110, right? So it's really, I don't people. It's funny because I see people say, "Hey, you need to change your character. You need to be more serious," and I'm like, what do you mean change your character? I've been competitive eating for 6 years. It's not like I just made this up, I'm a U.S. Army veteran. I served 5.5 years in the United States Army. It's not like I just made this stuff up. So Megabyte Ronnie is essentially Ronnie Hartman turned up to 110. I don't think it's too much of a stretch to my character. I'm a little bit louder. I'm a little bit more outspoken, but there's not a big difference between the two people.
Yes. Also, I think that the Megabyte name is because you have a very good bite.
Right. Well, it's a play on words because I've done IT work my entire life. So that's why I spell it like Megabyte, B-Y-T-E. But it's also because I have a megabyte as well. So it's kind of a play on words. I don't know. I had somebody suggest the name like 7 years ago, and I like it. And I've just been using it since then.
Great. Also, usually when we watch WWE, we have some kind of weird segments like we are gonna have an arm wrestling contest or something like that. Do you think that there is possible to have a eating contest in WWE?
Yeah, I think it's possible. With the eating contest, you got to have paramedics nearby because it's absolutely a choking hazard anytime you do speed eating like that. But I mean, look at the being the elite segment I did where I ate the two cakes. You know, people absolutely love that. So we could absolutely do something like that in WWE or AEW. I would absolutely love if anybody, you know, gave me a contract. I would love to do segments like that.
Yes.
And that's something that separates me from anybody else because you don't have. I am a legitimate professional athlete. I am signed to a contract with Major League Eating. I am 18th in the world at this, right? You cannot. There's no other competitive eater / professional wrestler. I am the only one that exists. So I'm the only person that could do segments like that. So that's why I think my value is a little bit high, and I think that's why I think I should be signed to a company because I can do things for you that no other independent wrestler can.
Yes. Also, who will be your best rival, your professional wrestler rival in a competitive eating?
Who would be the Butcher? I know personally that the Butcher can put down a lot of food. So if there was somebody out there who could come close to me in eating, it would be the Butcher.
Oh, good. I will say Otis.
Yeah, maybe Otis, but if you look at competitive eaters, a lot of competitive eaters are slim because the less fat that you have, the more your stomach can expand. So that's why like Matt Stoney weighs like 130 pounds and he's like the second best eater in the world. So it's like Otis, he's got that big belly, so it's probably not good for him in competitive eating.
Well, also yes, last questions. Why can you tell us about the state of independent wrestling in the United States? It's hard to get booked on events?
Yeah, it's extremely hard. I think it was a little bit easier in the summer where you had warm weather. I think it's a lot safer to be able to do these shows outside. I think it's really cool. You see people like Warrior Wrestling that does shows at high school football stadiums. I think that's extremely cool. I would have loved to do something like that. Unfortunately, we're getting into the winter months where it's going to be too cold for you to be able to do things like that. So now you got to have shows with limited capacity. There's a lot of states that aren't even allowing wrestling. There's only a few states that you can go to wrestle. I know Indiana allows wrestling. That's why I do Black Label Pro there. But I think from what I've heard, it's almost impossible to do wrestling in New York State. It's almost impossible to do wrestling in Pennsylvania. I think it's really hard to do it in Ohio. So, like, all these different states have different laws and regulations. So, independent wrestling is not in a good spot right now. And that's why it's absolutely 100% crucial for you to be on social media because you've got to be able to get yourself out there some way.
Yes. Well, and the last question is your future plans. What are you looking for your wrestling career or your competitive eating career in the next months, maybe in the next year?
And the next month, I'm going to be wrestling at Black Label Pro November 21st. It's going to be me and my buddy Puff tag teaming up against Puff and Gangrel, or tag teaming up against Effie and Gangrel. So that's going to be cool. We also got another tag match in early December that hasn't been announced yet, so I'm waiting for that to be announced.
Okay.
In the next year, I think I'm going to be signed. I think that maybe sounds crazy coming from some guy who's only had 23 matches, but I absolutely think in the next year that wrestling is going to be my full-time job. So that's my goal. That's the number one thing on my list is to get a contract, to get a job somewhere. So I think that's going to happen for me in the next year. I don't see any reason why it would not happen.
Well, I wish you the best of lucks.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, that's the end of the interview. Thank you so much for your time. Can I ask you for something?
Yes.
Can you say hello to your fans in Spain and in Solo Wrestling, the website?
Yeah, what's up? I just want to say a big thank you and hello to all my fans out there in Spain. it's absolutely cool for you guys to come in here and check out this interview with Megabyte Ronnie. I'm all about meeting new people and new fans. I'm so glad I've been able to do this.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm gonna ask you also if you can eat a hot dog, but you are in your free time, so.
I don't even think I have one here. I don't
Yeah.
I don't eat a lot of hot dogs for fun anymore because
That's your work.
I've eaten like 300 hot dogs in my competitive eating career, so I don't enjoy them all that
Yes.
much anymore.
It's gonna be if you are like a stand-up comedy and say, "Oh, come on, tell us a joke." No, that's my work, please.
Yeah, it's like that, right? When I go out to eat at restaurants with my friends, they want me to eat the entire menu, and I'm like, no, guys, that's my job. I do that. I gotta eat normal so I can look good for wrestling. Everybody wants me to eat a bunch all the time, and I'm like, no, I don't do that. I eat a bunch for contests. Once every couple of months. I don't do that all the time.
Okay, well, again, thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have more matches and more books in events.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I had a lot of fun. You have a good rest of the day.
Okay, goodbye.
Bye bye.